Hey everybody, it's Zach, and as you can see behind me, I really like movies, and I'm here talking about Barbenheimer, the hit of the summer, the surprise double feature that everybody's been talking about, everybody's been hyped for, and I've been hyped for that too. I've been trying like crazy to get this video out, so I'm probably just gonna like do a little vlog thing. Then got some notes on over here, and I think my favorite part about this whole phenomenon is how there's so much shared excitement for both of these. There's not really like the excitement for one is not really at the cost. It's meant to put the other one down. It's very much apples and oranges. In fact, I kind of almost want more studio projects from the auteurs just so we can get more of these these funny so diametrically opposed double features. Like one time I did a double feature of Ingmar Bergman's Persona and Beavis and Butthead Do America. It was one of the best ideas I ever had in my life. So, like that, I'm going to do the serious movie first and then the fun one second. So, Oppenheimer. This is the 12th feature from Christopher Nolan, who needs no introduction right now. And I've been really interested in his career trajectory for a couple of years now, because since Inception, the scope of his movies have only gotten bigger and probably too big for his ambitions. Like the sheer size and scale of something like Tenet or Interstellar makes even a regular studio movie like Batman Begins seem like small potatoes in comparison. And when it was announced that Oppenheimer was going to be his next project, I really hoped it would be much more smaller, much more intimate character study, and I got kind of worried when I heard, oh, he's going to go back to doing IMAX cameras. He's gonna go big again. But I'm happy to say that my fears were for naught, because this just might be his magnum opus. Yeah, I really think that. So, for one thing, when you go to a Nolan movie, you're really going in for the process and the spectacle that comes out of that. And you also got him playing with time, but he's not just playing with time here. He's also playing with this like clashing and jarring perspectives with sequences that are shot in black and white and shot with color. It felt like a throwback to Memento in that way. I also couldn't help but notice that Nolan has a little bit of Batman in him still. There's a moment of Oppenheimer where he's suiting up with his hat, with his jacket, with his pipe, like he's putting on a cape. And even later towards the end, there's a moment like he name drops John F. Kennedy like he's teasing him for a sequel about the Cuban Missile Crisis or something. It was honestly kind of funny. And I think it's part of that. Process. It would have been one thing if Nolan only was about focusing on Oppenheimer and the Manhattan Project and building the bomb and the suspense of the bomb. Is the bomb going to work? And feeling the fallout of what have I done kind of thing. But it also is a great men in rooms arguing movie. There are these great courtroom sequences of Oppenheimer being interrogated for his past affiliation with the Communist Party, with his later hesitancy of his rejection of further advancing the nuclear program, and also the political implications of people who knew him, people who tried to thwart him, and even in these scenes, it like keeps accentuating the perspective of Oppenheimer's psychology. Like there's the soundscape is just screaming in our ears, like yeah, it's just constantly screaming and getting louder and louder, like it's almost like this courtroom's about to explode or something. And the sound mix is still cranked to 11 like he always does, but this time it's much more for the subjectivity of the protagonist outside of just like, the general vibe of the piece. It's more done for subjectivity than the vibe of the piece, like with say Tenet. But on the topic of that soundscape, Ludwig Göransson's score is pretty comparable to Hans Zimmer's work. with Nolan, not just in the sense of like the noise of it all, but also how it like also feeds into that psychology, and also accentuates the soundscape. Like there's this constant refrain of like this pounding, marching, stomping feet that's just pounding and pounding and thudding and louder. It almost sounds like you're standing next to a train. And it's almost as if the march of progress is thundering in Oppenheimer's subconscious, just rattling his mind. Yeah. Oh, and I've seen at least a few comparisons to JFK, the Oliver Stone movie, which I think is pretty appropriate, not just in like the the sheer epicness of the length and some of the political ambitions, the shooting in color and black and white, but like also with the litany of actors that just keep showing up like out of nowhere. Every time a new scene and a new character is introduced, it just be like, oh wow, wow, check it out. It's Jack Quaid. Look at that. It's Benny Safdie and Alden Ehrenreich. Oh my god, Josh Peck is here for some reason too. That's awesome. and hey, it's got Josh Hartnett, my boy, back at it again. I don't even want to spoil who plays Harry Truman in this, because that honestly took me by surprise. But when you're talking the supporting cast, Robert Downey Jr. is probably the standout. I think Aaron Reich goes pound for pound with him, but like, man, it felt so good that RDJ remembered that he's also a good actor. He's not just a Marvel vessel for his like blatant charisma and soy banter. He's a really talented actor. This is the best he's been in like 20 years. I don't think I've seen him this good since Zodiac. Like, there's a moment when he swallows his anger in a way that a prideful man of his time would do. Like, it was a real character specific moment, and I don't think we've seen something like that from him in a long time. Like, he's just kind of been in Tony Stark mode since, like, you almost on autopilot since like 2012. But yeah, performances were great. There's also great turns from both Florence Pugh and Emily Blunt, and yeah, there's still, I think the criticism of Nolan that he can't really write women still mostly holds true here, but I think there's a lot of the Blunt and Pugh do bring a lot of pathos and catharsis that I think helps lift the script a little. No, and it's interesting that Nolan has always been more caring about the process and function more than like the humanity of the characters. And it was interesting that he chose a biopic like this as one of his projects, and I think because of that, this has been so jarring and so interesting, so fascinating, because he is very successful with it. The visuals are incredible. This is I think the third or fourth time he's worked with Van Hoytema as DP, and it goes beyond just the wide, expansive shots of like the Trinity bomb test. There are these sharp intercuts of abstract imagery of like gas and fire and smoke and sparks and refracted bending light, kind of give it's like it's visual. It's clearly trying to give visualization to nuclear fission and quantum theory. There's kind of almost a mysticism to particles, and there's a wonder in quantum theory, and I don't understand it, but I do feel it, and I think that's the point. Really got to shout out the editing by Jennifer Lame. Really incredible stuff. I hope she gets recognized for that. But man, honestly, this entire movie would crumble if not for Cillian Murphy, who absolutely carries it. He is just marvelous here. Like, he doesn't just look the part, but he carries through the psychology of Oppenheimer very, very well. Like he he wears his self pity like a crown of thorns, and just begging his poor put upon wife Kitty to just feel sorry for him for all the sins he's committed. He even like shares his gloom in a few scenes with Albert Einstein, who frankly felt a little weird seeing him in this, because Einstein to me has always been a brilliant man, like a cartoony old man with a brilliant mind and a goofy smile. And I do not like the idea that he was a real person who felt really sad and felt guilty like he had blood on his hands. I do not like that. Very disapprove of that. I like my Einsteins happy and goofy, sticking his tongue out. But yeah, that's also part of the tragedy of it. The tragedy of Oppenheimer is that he's so mystified by the potential of the science, and at the same time so tortured by the inevitability of what he's creating until it's well too late. And by the end of it, he's completely racked by the all-consuming guilt and the fears of what may come to the world, and if there is a world that will be later. Yeah, it's a staggering accomplishment. The 3 hours flew by really quick. It's so strange that this kind of movie is a summer blockbuster. It's crazy. It's crazy to think that. The photography, the performances, the editing, the sound of it all was all incredible. It's haunting. It's overwhelming, and I think it's one of Nolan's best in years. I think it's a true feat of filmmaking. I'm feeling a decent 9 out of this one. Yeah. On to Barbie, really quick. Barbie is the third feature from indie darling writer, director, star Greta Gerwig, co-written by her and her partner Noah Baumbach. And already it is at, let's see, it's been only 1 week, and it is the biggest opening of the year, the biggest opening for a female director, the biggest opening for a movie not based on a sequel, based on a toy, and not based on a sequel, not a comic book or anything. And it is the biggest opening for both Margot Robbie and Ryan Gosling. Damn. And first things first, it's gorgeous. There is too much pink. There's overwhelmingly pink. And man, the sets are so great. There's a charming plasticity and an authentic artificiality. Like she's clearly evoking, she and her production designer Sarah Greenwood, who has done amazing work in the past, is clearly emulating soundstage musicals and old Hollywood, like golden age of Hollywood stuff, like Powell and Pressburger movies, like The Red Shoes, and Jacques Demy, some works by Jacques Demy, then like Wizard of Oz, and it's very successful. The whole tone is very tongue-in-cheek, but never at the cost of any sincerity. It is full, and it's weird to say that because it's also a little bit cynical in some places. Like, it is cynical about Barbie's place in, well, it at least confronts and tries to reckon with Barbie's place in women's history, in like as a product of consumerism, but also tries to also enjoy and give weight to the message that Barbie was intended for. And I think it mostly succeeds at that. You leave out feeling good about Barbie and like the journey she's been on and stuff. Maybe less about Barbie being a product, especially with the way that it jabs at Mattel with like the CEO character played by Will Ferrell. But on top, like continuing on, Margot, the casting is marvelous. Everybody's great. Margot Robbie is perfect for this role. Like, the movie literally points out how perfect she is for this role, and this movie would not have been as strong as it is, I don't think, without Margot Robbie. She just carries this like sweet naivete, but also this like still carrying this like existential burden within her, and like there's this beautiful moment where she's like sits at a bench and just takes in the life around her, and it's so she sells it so well. She's so good. She's really one of our best actresses working today. Ryan Gosling is kind of the standout. Like, just 100% committing to the bit, brought an entire franchise's worth of energy to this. He's always been He's always been great at playing comedy. Like, watch The Nice Guys if you haven't. He's hysterical in that. But I don't think I've ever laughed as hard from one of Ryan's performances than this. Like, man, just his presence, him standing there, just gets giggles out of me. God, he better be recognized come awards season, or else there'll be a great reckoning. The rest of the cast is very well utilized. There's like Issa Rae, America Ferrera, Kate McKinnon as they're very well cast as other Barbies. I also really enjoyed Simu Liu as like the rival Ken to Ryan's Ken. I'm not entirely sure if he's like Surfer Ken, or which is different from Ryan's Ken, whose job is beach, which is not lifeguard. That's a very important distinction. Also, Michael Cera as Alan. We love Alan, don't we, folks? Yeah. It is rather blatant with what it's about, and as much as I do enjoy that, and much as I agree with it, I do think it could have used maybe a second pass through with the script, just kind of like tighten things up a bit. It's a little under 2 hours, and maybe it could have been a little shorter. I'm not exactly sure what you would cut or how much. I'm probably just gonna need like another go through with it, because most of the pacing felt a little odd in the beginning and like towards the middle. Not every joke landed. The stuff with Will Ferrell is good. It's decent. They have like this like Scooby-Doo chase in the the Mattel building, but his subplot just kind of it gets kind of forgotten towards the end. Not towards the end. Like, there's a part in the middle where they're reintroduced. Oh, they're here, and then they like kind of get forgotten until the end. It was like, oh yeah, you're in this. I forgot. But back to that messaging, I do think it, not to get too spoilery, but it is explicitly about the gender dynamics and how what's expected of men and women is harmful to both. It's satirizing hierarchical gender structures, not just at the jabs and patriarchy, the way but also the matriarchal status quo within Barbie land. It shows, the passive acceptance of the Barbie land world is a false positive, both for the Barbies and for the Kens, and which is really like, it sort of treads the line of like well-intentioned feelings and just this like cynical co-option of feminism to keep the gears rolling. But yeah, it treads that line, kind of has its cake and eat it too, and I think it's pretty good at that. And it's really weird, but also sadly expected, to see like the accusations that this movie hates men, which could not be further from the truth. This movie adores Ken. It wants nothing but the best for its Kens. If you listen to a bunch of these anti-woke channels, you would think that this movie ends with a tombstone that reads, "Here lies Ken. He never scored." If your sense of masculinity is threatened by the most lighthearted of jabs at patriarchy and macho and machismo, it kind of says more about you than it does the movie, frankly. It stops flat out from just saying that men deserve better than to live in the shadow of others, and they do not need to impress or dominate women or anybody to feel important about themselves. They are enough. You are enough. You are enough. That is the message. That is the message that they spell out pretty blatantly, and they put on a jacket that you can buy, and I must have it. So yeah, I think it was a pretty successful, and I give this like a solid 7 out of 10. Really good stuff. And yeah, oh no, I'm losing time. Yeah, so comment, like, subscribe. Did you see Barbenheimer? What did you think of Barbie? What did you think of Oppenheimer? Did you become Death Destroyer of Worlds? Are you a Barbie girl in a Barbie world? And yeah, I'll see you later. I hope to keep this stuff up. And yeah, see you then. Bye.